Management Institute, and she's a project management professional, and they have a good footprint in our physical planning practices, and some of our planner also completed project management from that institute, and we have collaboration with them. Last week did also some training to our planners as a part of professional capacity development. Right of my side is Dr. Mohammad Wakil. Is a fellow of our institute, and now working as an assistant professor of Bangladesh University of Russia University of Engineering Technology, Duet. And the last of my side is Mr. Tariquzzaman. He is a senior planner of Urban Development Directorate. He is still, I think you are a project director of Pyra development project. Completed already. He was also project director of Madaripur Rajur development plan, the first Upazila level plan in Bangladesh, isn't it? Tariq bhai? Okay. Okay, for the whole Upazila. That was the first pilot project of Bangladesh, huh? From UDD. So I think, okay, now ready. Please start.
Good afternoon and assalamu alaikum everyone, to the honorable chairman, moderator, discussants and my fellow participants. At first, I would like to express my gratitude to the Bangladesh Institute of Planners for organizing this conference, and I also like to express my gratitude for giving us the opportunity to present this research. The title of my research is Migration as an Adaptation Strategy, Understanding Seasonal Migration Across the Regions of Bangladesh. I am Nazifa Anjum, will be starting this presentation. This is the outline of our presentations, which will be followed here. We know about the Paris Climate Agreement, which has established a global goal for adaptation and also has urged the signatory countries to formulate and implement of national adaptation plan. And this was adopted by the UN climate conferences, and the last conference that held in Egypt in 2002 has concluded that migration could be a meaningful climate resilience and adaptation strategy. And in the light of these global commitments, our country has also formulated the National Adaptation Plan of Bangladesh for 2023 to 2050, which has also strategies for climate change induced migration. As we know, even before all these goals, our country has seen seasonal migration as one of the prevalent migration due to our climatic conditions, especially for the poor rural people. So it is very important to understand the existing pattern of seasonal migration and associate factors responsible for these movements. So what is migration? Migration is a person's or group's movement across an international border or within a state. So in broader sense, there are two types of migration, which is permanent and seasonal migration. And so seasonal migration is the short-term or temporary move, which is mainly made from their customary residence for a short amount of time, which is mainly made for economic purposes, and this short move is generally has to be continuous absence, and the time should be between 3 to 6 months. Now, if we look at the migration scenario in Bangladesh, in our country, seasonal migration has been seen as a means for supporting the poor people in rural areas to maintain their livelihood for a long time, and it has also been recognized as a way of adaptation by many studies. There are also been significant relationship between migration and poverty in our country. There are many factors and determinants behind this migration which has been seen in our country, which will be further discussed by our next presenter, Ms. Laizu.
Thank you, Nazifa. Now I'll be discussing the migration pattern and the associated factors. The migration pattern in Bangladesh exhibits a geographic pattern, as people are more likely to move towards the big cities and towns. In the context of seasonal migration, it is evident in the Monga and Hao regions. There are some inducing factors behind the existing migration pattern in Bangladesh. Usually the poor socioeconomic condition of people compel them to migrate. Also, sometimes the environmental situations like natural disasters or climate change factors influence them to migrate. Sometimes the availability of social bonding or relationship in the cities and towns attract them to migrate. Now I'll be discussing our research methodology. We conducted our study in the 10 villages of Bangladesh which are selected randomly from the 6 different divisions of Bangladesh. To conduct the study, we collected both primary and secondary data. For primary data, we conducted around 343 questionnaires which are done based on random sampling. We also conducted some FGDs with the local farmers, women, and young people. We also required some secondary information which are collected from the literatures and Bangladesh Bureau of Statistics. After collecting our data, we analyzed them to identify the regional, socioeconomic, and environmental pattern and factors using different softwares like GIS, Excel, and SPSS. So this is our study area. We can see that these are the 6 districts from which we selected our 10 villages. If we see the geographical distribution of these districts, we can see that they cover the different regions of Bangladesh, like the coastal region, the Banin Track region, the How region, central region, etc. These villages are primarily agricultural based and households of different socioeconomic status, basically the poor and middle income status people reside in these villages. Also, these villages face environmental problems like floods, riverbank erosion, droughts almost every year. Now I'll be discussing the results from our analysis. At first, let's have a look at the profile of the seasonal migrants. Our study found around 17% of the migrants from these villages as seasonal migrants, who are basically middle-aged people, male and married. Regarding the socioeconomic condition, we found that they are mainly uneducated or have primary education and belong to poor income status group. Now I'll be discussing the regional pattern of seasonal migration. As we can see from the map that migrants are mainly coming from the Kurigram district of the northern region and Kustia districts of the western region. Also, the seasonal migrants are also coming from these 2 particular districts. In fact, more than 50% of the seasonal migrants are coming from Kurigram district. Thus, we can see a skewed distribution of seasonal migrants in the northern region. On the other hand, the central district Tangail and the coastal district Noakhali have hardly any occurrences of seasonal migration. Thus, we can say that the migration in Bangladesh has a regional variation, and there may be some inducing factors behind that, which we'll be discussing next by Ms. Moon.
Thank you, Laizu. Bangladesh's economic landscape portrays a substantial variation in the development. It is also statistically seen that the economically lagging regions also lag in the educational quotients, like the adult literacy rate in the districts who have higher poverty rates. It is also prominent from our study that seasonal migration is the prevalent migration type in the districts or the regions those are lagging behind. Thus, we can state that regional inequality and regional imbalance in growth is a factor associated with the existing seasonal migration pattern in Bangladesh. Moving towards the socioeconomic pattern and factors, it is well known that hope of gaining economic benefit is the main reason push factor behind migration, which is also evident for the seasonal migrants. But the exception is their expectation for income is very lower than the others, and which is also found in our data that they get higher income in their destination, but if we compare that with other types of migrants, that is significantly lower benefit. If we look at the occupational change, they have lack of knowledge and they lack of transferable skills. That's why they can't change or move to better occupation in the migration destination. They mostly stay in the same occupation group, like from agriculture sector to agriculture sector, or some informal sector like hawkery, rickshaw pulling, van driving, etc. And a small portion of female migrants involved in RMG sector and domestic care services. So that's the change in occupation. If you look at the environmental factor, previous researches done in this area have found mixed findings regarding the relation of environment and the migration decision. In our research, we have found that higher number of seasonal migrants come from the disaster-prone districts like Kurigram and Sunamganj, but while we are collecting the data from the questionnaire, they revealed that disaster was not the main reason behind their migration decision. In FGD sessions, they told us that during disasters, they try to cope at their origin first, then they take the decision of migration when they can't cope with that situation. Going to the conclusion of our research, migration, whether it will be positive or negative impact for people or for the society, depends largely on the support and the policies in place. Institutional supports like knowledge hub, supporting skills like different NGO initiatives for enabling migrants to avail better occupational opportunities and income opportunities in their migration destination can help them. Also, prioritizing policies regarding considering the economic and social benefits migrants bring in their origin and both in the destination can help us formulate better policies. Also, our national adaptation plan, where seasonal migrants migration have been told to mitigate, but as it can be an adaptive strategy, we would rather prioritize to policies formulating to enable migrants to have the benefits of adaptation. Thus, we can state that migration will be positive adaptive strategy for the people of the disaster-prone and the people who are in distress in Bangladesh, if we can take proper policy measures and support them with necessary initiatives. That's all our presentation. That's the references we have used. Thank you, everyone. We thank our co-author, Sabir Hossain Muni, Moshur Rahman Khan, Dr. Nilpal Audrey, Paramita Shom, and Tasnim Feroz, also our classmates who helped to collect the data for this research, and all the listeners who listened to us throughout the presentation. We appreciate any questions from you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Saida Laju Akhtar, Munislam, Nafizan Jum, for your nice presentation. And depict that the climate change-induced migration, which is temporarily and seasonal, and from the studied village, around 17% migrated, especially some are from disaster-prone districts. So it's excellent, and as I will go later to our panelists, but before going there, I like to go to our lovely audience if there are any questions. Okay? Any questions from Sir, Mohit sir, please. Where is supporting service volunteer? Nobin, please help. Pass a mic to the sir. Sir, would you please repeat the question in the mic, please?
Thank you for your very rapid presentation of the paper. I didn't have the opportunity to hear everything because I was late. But I have a question. How you know these migrants are climate migrants? How?
Hello. Sir, thank you for your question. We are not addressing them as climate migrants. We are calling them seasonal migrants, and climate-induced migrants are a part of the seasonal migrants. All of the migrants whom we have studied are not due to climate change or climate change-related factors. We have found that. Disaster or the climate-induced factors are like secondary factors for them. Basically, when in some seasons they don't find occupational opportunities in their region, and then they try to or intend to migrate to other regions.
But you have to be careful when you call climate migrants, because climate migrants research is now at a very growing stage, and they use different methodologies to identify which migrants are what type of migrants. So that's why I posed this question to you. But it seems that you didn't consider them separately. They are all migrants.
Yeah, we considered the seasonal migrants, and there are some climate migrants who are in this group. Like climate migrants are migrate seasonally sometimes, and some climate migrants also migrate permanently due to the climate distress in their regions. But we didn't consider climate migrants as a type. We considered seasonal migrants, and in our study, we considered other types of migrants like permanent migrants, international migrants, or another was opportunistic migrants. So,
Opportunistic migrants.
yeah.
Oh, I see. So what methodology you use to identify them?
We use the definition from the literatures that we studied before, and we identified them as per the definitions we took as the standard for our study.
I said you have to be careful because there should be appropriate methodology to distinguish them, whether they are seasonal or climate or lifetime or that type of things. Yeah. So
Yes,
this
sir.
research of yours is a degree research or what?
Basically, there was we do some research or research projects in our sessional classes in our
Or
undergrad
sessional-
courses.
sessional
So it
class
was a part of
projects.
that.
Oh, it's okay then. But in future, when you do bigger research, you have to be careful about it. Yeah?
No, no.
Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the question.
একটা কোশ্চেন একটু করবো
Sir, please.
আচ্ছা থ্যাংক ইউ ফর ইয়োর ট্রাই ও বিউটিফুল আদ্রির নামও তো দেখছিলাম আদ্রি নাই ওই তোমার পেপারে এটা শোনা যাচ্ছে শুনতে পাও হ্যাঁ আচ্ছা আচ্ছা যে ক্লাইমেট ইন্ডিউসড ওই যে আইলা হলো তখন যে শ্যামনগর ওই সাউদার্ন বেল্ট অফ বাংলাদেশ স্পেশালি দি খুলনা ডিভিশনের যে ক্যাটাস্ট্রফিকে হয়েছিল তারা সব এসে অবস্থাপন্ন লোক তারা সাতক্ষীরায় এসে টেম্পোরারি ঘর ভাড়া করে খুব গরিব হয়ে গেছে তারা যে এখনও সেখানে চাষবাস করতে পারছে না আজকে 10-12 বছর হচ্ছে এইভাবে এটার কি কোনো ডেটা আছে তোমাদের নাই আচ্ছা
স্যার এই ধরনের কোনো
আচ্ছা আর একটা মা দেখো ওই যে আমরা আমার বাংলাদেশেও যাচ্ছে যে সলিল সমাধি হচ্ছে ভূমধ্যসাগরে ও আটলান্টিকে প্যাসিফিকে হচ্ছে হ্যাঁ এই যে খবর রাখো
Our research
যারা
is
যারা
not
মাইগ্রেন্ট হতে
related to that,
যাচ্ছে
but we have read the newspaper articles and some researches regarding those incidents.
Thank you,
That's
sir.
not
Thank
part
you.
of
Thank you,
খুব
sir.
ভালো রাখবা থ্যাংক ইউ
I will go for another question only for this presentation. Any question from the young planner sitting in back? Any question? Okay.
Rita Bhumik, senior reporter, Daily Kalbela. My question. In Tangail Nagarpur Upazila, 6 primary Vidyalaya have gone to river Crowdis. Their education is disputed. Migration of children did not come up. Absent of your presentation.
Ma'am, can you please repeat the question?
Can you repeat your question? Okay, thank you, thank you. I think I will respond later. Thank you very much for waiting your time. Thank you. I'd like to request our next presenter, Sarah Tasin, Jahin Labiba, Tasne Islam, Tamjid bin Rafi, Mohammad Muqtadir Rahman Bhuiya, Nilapal Adri, Paramita Shumi, and Tasnim Firozi. Migration pattern of rural areas of northern Bangladesh, a study on Kurigram district. Please try to make a presentation within, you have limited 10 minutes, huh? Max. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm expressing my heartfelt gratitude to be able to present our study, Migration Pattern of Rural Areas of Northern Bangladesh, a study on Kurigram district. I, Sarah Tassin, along with Jahin Labeba, will be presenting our study today. With rapid increase of globalization, it has become pretty common to move to other countries. Economic inequality causes regional disparity, which influences people to leave their home and move to different places in search for better lifestyle. These incidents can be referred as migration, on which our study is based on. Here is our outline. Kurigram is the poorest district of Bangladesh. Moreover, it experiences frequent natural disasters like flood, drought, which is called Monga. People migrate seasonally to Dhaka, mainly from central and northern parts. 80% of the migrants of Kurigram migrate to Dhaka. It puts a huge impact on Dhaka, so the migration from this region requires special attention. That's why we set our objective to explore migration pattern of Kurigram district and to analyze the factors responsible for existing migration pattern. There are different types of migration which we found from our literature review. The migration that occurs within the boundary of a country is called internal migration, while if it's beyond the boundary, it is called international migration. Seasonal migration occurs for a short time period, while permanent migration occurs for a lifelong time. Opportunistic migration occurs for getting some specific opportunity like better education, and when migration comes back, when a migrant comes back to his home, it is called return migration. By conducting some other literature review, it was found that mostly male and married persons do migration, and the age between 15 to 40 conduct the most migration. Women also conduct migration due to marriage and garment factory. Illiterate and highly literate people migrates most. In our methodology, we first selected our topic, then a relevant literature review was done, then the objectives and study area was selected. A coordination schema was made to find the relevant variables. Data was collected in three ways: key informant interview, questionnaire survey, and focus group discussion. At last, the data was processed and some recommendations were drawn from this. We conducted our study in two villages called Dolon and Kolakata in the union of Buraburi in Ulipur Upojela of Kurigram district. While conducting the survey, we found that most of the male members of the families were migrating already, so the number of female was higher than male. The literacy rate of this study area was very low. In case of socio-economic condition, most of them were farmers or day laborers with a very low income rate. The overall physical infrastructure was very poor. Most of the houses was kacha, and one of the villages, Dolon, had no access to any paka road. The main source of water was a tube well, which was iron contaminated. The only 50% houses got access to electricity, and the sanitation system was unhygienic also. In case of community facilities, it was found that though the two villages got access to primary school, but there wasn't any college or high school nearby. There was also no health complex or any growth centers. The next part will be continued by Jahin Labiba.
Thank you. As we have seen from previous literature, people mainly migrate to better their situation. With the facilities and job opportunities being so minimal, rural Kurigram became a place where the migration of its people to better their opportunities became inevitable. The migration pattern during the time of our study can attest to that. 25.4% of the people were migrants. almost all people had relatives who had already migrated. Most of the families, heads of the households had migrated to support them financially from their new jobs. Among the migrants, maximum were male, and most migrants were seasonal. Therefore, people worked in the fields but during off-season took up jobs such as rickshaw driver or day laborer to supplement their income. After that, opportunistic migration and permanent migration were also significant. The people who migrated all had little to no income before migration. As we can see from the chart that among all the types of migrants, be it seasonal, opportunistic or permanent, many people had no source of income. Among the seasonal migrants who were mainly farmers, we can see that they earned very little through farming, which led to their need for diversifying their income. Mainly farmers and those who are unemployed migrate, and in most cases their skills are limited. As such, they have to settle for informal jobs which require little to no skill. These jobs are often not permanent, so even when they are migrating for a stable future, their limited opportunities hardly assure that ending. It is inevitably clear that for most people, their reason for migrating is to search for better jobs, either to diversify their income or they have no income in the first place. It is surprising to note that very few people cite disaster as their reasons for migration. We went into the field survey expecting many people to cite seasonal monga and yearly floods as the reason for leaving their homes. But instead, their response was that it is the lack of income and jobs, which is somewhat related to disaster, but not entirely. That was the primary motivation for migration. According to them, although disaster was prevalent, they did not find it disruptive enough to migrate. An overwhelming proportion of all migrating people go to Dhaka and cite its easy job availability and no matter what skill you possess as the main attraction to the place. Dhaka also offers them better community facilities like schools, hospitals, etc. It's at the end a game of push and pull, where on one hand they are being pushed out of their homeland due to poverty, and again being pulled into destinations like Dhaka and Tangail due to its vast job opportunities and no skill barrier. Overall, from our analysis, we find that migration is a common occurrence in Kurigram. Male migration is prominent, unlike the rest of the country, where female migration has also become popular due to the garment industry. Kurigram shows a different picture. Female migration is insignificant. Most of the migrations are seasonal, and those who migrate had less than 5,000 taka income monthly before migration. Throughout this study, it became clear to us that internal migration has over time become a tool for poverty-stricken rural households to survive and become more resilient in this era dominated by disasters, global warming, and climate change. And so, rather than taking efforts to stop migration, we have to look at the root cause, which is lack of jobs and low income. We should increase job opportunities of the regional capitals, in this case Rangpur city, so that migrants can effectively diversify their income without going to the capital city. Regional disparity has to be addressed in this growing concern for migration. This is our reference. Thank you. Any questions would be appreciated.
Thank you very much, Sarah Tasin and Jain Labiba. Very excellent presentation and very interesting findings to me as well. And poverty rate of Kurigram is 70.8%, and mostly seasonal migration. But I'm confused for one data of 25.4% migration within Kurigram. Is it in migration?
Sir, we had surveyed 63 households, and among the members of those 63 households, 25.4% were migrants.
Oh, I see. And right, it's interesting to say that the seasonal migration is to mainly Dhaka and then to Tangail.
Ji, sir.
And we all know that in migration from different district to Dhaka is around 5 lakhs annually. It's alarming as well. Anyway, thank you very much. I'd like to go to my audience. Any questions to the presenters? Sir. Okay, sir. Sir first, please.
Thank you for your very rapid presentation. This presentation is very rapid. But I have a few questions actually, because what type of research is this? Your studio work or graduation thesis or what?
This is a studio work.
Oh, studio work, okay. So,
We as a class prepare
yeah,
this.
you have a class. So while you doing interview, I found that they are not migrants, but migrant families,
The family members of the migrants mostly.
family members of the migrants.
We also found several migrants. It was a mix actually. There were several migrants who were visiting, were on vacation, or were seasonal migrants who could be interviewed because they were not out to other places. So we could interview the family members of the permanent migrants, but for seasonal migrants or opportunistic migrants, we found many of them in vacation, or they were
No,
present
but
during
my question is, who you ask, who is your target group, the family or the migrants who have come to visit the family? Who are they?
Well, we did the random sampling actually. We went to the houses and we found that in most of the houses, the people who usually does the migration were already migrating. So we had to talk with the family members of those migrants.
No, if you ask the family members or the leftover persons of the families who are not migrants and you want to know about their migration, that's okay. But it seems to me that there is a confusion because you talk to in one picture I saw you are talking to the family members,
Yeah.
and then you say you also talk to the migrants. Well, it should be clear because in the research, the unit of study must be very clear. It can be a household, it can be a person, or it can be an area, or it can be the community. But in your case, there is some,
Sir,
I think, overlap.
Yes, sir. We surveyed according to households. So in those households, in some cases there were migrants present, or in some cases there were family presence.
Okay, that is okay. But there is one term I found in your paper, opportunistic migration. Where did you get this term?
Sir, we had to adapt this definition because we could
You
not.
adapted.
Yes, sir. From literature.
Because I have never heard a migrant like this.
Sir, we found
There are
it
different types of migrations, huh?
Sir,
But never heard opportunistic migration like this.
Sir, we found it from the literature review, like other
Oh, you
studies.
find it from the literature. You have
Literature.
reference?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
We had the
I see.
reference.
Thank you, sir.
Because I thought, no, if you have reference, then it's okay. Oh. But anyway, if not, don't try to create one.
No, sir.
You
it
must
has
have a
reference.
support from the literature that there is. Because to my knowledge, I never heard opportunistic migration. Okay, thank you.
sir. They might categorize two types. Those have no income, they are opportunity migrants, and those have lived less than 5,000 taka, they are seasonal migrants. They showed in their presentation. Anyway, thank you very much, sir. Thank you. I think, before coming to Mr. Ansar Hussain, there is a young planner behind you. Please, sorry for that. Okay. Yes, please. Introduce yourself first, then please. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This is Dr. Razia from BIS under Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Thank you so much for hearing such a young and very intelligent scholar like you. I have a couple of questions particularly from your presentation. The first one, I would like to know from you that we have heard the previous presentation is basically the migration from the southern part. And you have discussed about the northern section, particularly focusing on the Kurigram.
No, the last group presented on whole Bangladesh as a country, and
Okay.
we presented on Kurigram district.
So I would like to know particularly whether, do you find any kind of difference? I mean, how do you select, why did you select the Kurigram district in particular? And my second question, I want to echo with my previous, the discussant, the speaker, that you said that you have chosen 63 households, right? And also the family members. So I would like to know, of the curiosity that Do you find any kind of like difference? Because you say that you have interviewed the family members. So, I mean, how do you address this in your analysis? And you also talked about the 63 household you have selected. So what is the selection process of that? And my last question is like in the suggestion part, you have said that most of the people tend to migrate in Dhaka, right? So you said that you have a particular one suggestion that maybe the regional
Capital.
yeah. So creating a livelihood opportunity in the regional area might be one kind of option. So I'd like to know particularly, since most of the people might tend to migrate from the Kurigram district, so which district particularly you are focusing on to create new job opportunities? So I mean, are those adjacent district or any particular district you are going to focus? Thank you so much. I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much for a specific question. Please respond.
While addressing the first question, we selected Kurigram because we found, we also showed that in our literature review section that we found that in Bangladesh, most of the migrants come from those regions, like in northern parts. And when we studied in detail, we found that Kurigram has the most migrants coming into Dhaka. Like 80% of the migrants are coming to Dhaka. So that's why we focused on Kurigram.
And for your later questions, you asked that about the household criteria, right? So we interviewed 63 households, and we did it based on random sampling. We also conducted FGD, where we conducted FGD on seasonal migrants, we conducted FGD on the women
And also the young group.
and also the youth. And we also did some KII, where we interviewed a person who was very knowledgeable about the area, from whom we asked questions relevant to our study. I think I did not understand your third question, so could you please repeat that?
Thank you, thank you. Last
I
question to...
I think I got it. You asked if we were talking about regional capital, and you wanted to know where the regional capital could be, if it's around Kurigram. So we wanted to suggest that Rangpur could be a regional capital because it's really adjacent to it, and there are better facilities than Kurigram. And if it has already established as a division, so that could be a regional capital for Kurigram.
Thank you very much. Thank you. You have completed presentation within 9 minutes. Special thanks to you, but have to take us some time for responding the answer. Answer Hussain Bhai, any? Please, please.
I would rather share one thing. I had the opportunity to plan the Rangpur divisional town for the next 20 years. So I had extensive travel over there, and the findings you have come up with may reflect the way we thought about it. So that's interesting. Another thing is, this is for us to think about a point of thought rather. Instead of asking door to door for the migrants, looking for the migrants in the door to door in the source, if we ask for the migrants in where they are working, it is rather easier for you to find them, and then you can ask them to where they have come from, and from there you can develop your data. That will be rather easier for you, and life will be easier at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Sarat Asin and Jain Labiba.
Sir, we're from Buet, Bangladesh University
They are
of
from
Engineering
Buet.
Technology.
So Buet.
Buet. The first president also from Buet, huh? Thank you very much. Thank you. Our next presenter is from Australia, and Mr. Ejaz Sheikh, Rahman Moshir Rahman, and Maksud Hashem Bhai will present. Ejaz from Australia, huh? Okay, okay. I'd like to request our volunteer to connect online. Jahid Dola, any opportunity to say in this monitor?
Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam.
Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can you hear me?
Yeah. We are hearing you loudly.
Good.
No problem. Judge,
Good.
we have limited time and we are behind from our schedule. So please make a presentation with the time limit of 10 minutes, please. Okay? And you will know that the main title of this paper is Review of the Draft Urban and Regional Planning Act 2017 of Bangladesh. We all know that after 52 years of independence, we cannot frame any legal framework for our especially for physical and spatial planning. So one act was drafted and passed to our Ministers Committee under the leadership of Prime Minister, but it was not yet gone to the Parliament for final approval. So let's see our institutional capacity and the draft planning act and what is their insight. Ejaz, please. It's 10 minutes to you. Thank you.
Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and warm welcome. I thank you for giving me opportunities to present this paper. It's a review paper, very far away, basically from Melbourne, and so you can see from the slide the title and the authors, the description and the credential of the authors. I'm on the top here. I represent the Department of Planning, Victorian Government, Australia. My senior university mate, Mashur Rahman, she's from the Fairfield City Council in New South Wales, Australia, and Maqsood Hashim Bhai from DNCC. Probably you know know him very, very well. So I will start my presentation. Going to the next slide. I'll be controlling. Thank you. So why URP Act? You know that it's basically it is based on research activities on the Urban Development Directorate since 1965. The Cabinet of Bangladesh government adopted this approved draft URP Act, taking steps forward to the stop unplanned urbanization to end the legacy of unpermitted, disintegrated and uncoordinated land use planning and development practice. So the underlying reason why the URP Act was drafted, it is to actually form a new authority that would bring coordination among bodies dealing with land in particular. And it also will introduce a permit regime for the landowners and developers who would obtain necessary permission to build houses or infrastructure in rural areas to stop accelerated loss of agricultural land. Now, in terms of the summary of the URP Act, there's quite a few points to cover. Mainly, anyone who tries to procure agricultural land and wetland for building constructions, or any landowner who tries to do so by changing the classes of the land or category of the land without a permit will be subject to punishment. Restricting of landowners' development aspirations is also another underlying reasons. It will also establish a coordination mechanism among concerned government departments, city corporation, development authorities, and local governments like municipalities, Upazila, and district councils. The draft URP Act outlined the form and functions of advisory councils to make the law effective. The council will consist of 27 members, headed by the Housing and Public Works Minister, who will oversee policy making. There would also be a 25-member executive council led by the Housing Secretary for running day-to-day functions related to the issuance of land use clearances. And relevant experts are also thought to be included in that particular 25-member executive council. Now, there is a criticism about this draft act, particularly with respect to the advisory and executive bodies, which consist of general bureaucrats of various ministries and government departments who are not qualified planners and trained professionals. Bangladeshi bureaucrats, we all know that how good they are in terms of professional decision making. Now, why review the current version of the URP Act 2017? Now, as I can actually highlight here, to edit and rewrite selected clauses, which is described in section 5 of the paper, with respect to the good purpose outlined in the opening statement. the current version of the URP Act progresses, if it progresses to the as a bill in the Parliament, then the Parliament may end up passing a scanty and useless law which warrant many amendments in future. And the thing is, it requires more thorough review from various practitioners across the English world, eminent lawyers, and concerned professional institute first. The lawmaker also admitted that many issues which had not been mentioned in the draft URP Act, and those would be elaborated in the rules that would follow. But since 2017, no further steps were taken to raise this draft act as a bill in the Parliament. No public hearing occurred to obtain inputs from the public of all strata, user group, existing planning and approval system, particularly from native and foreign development partners, contractors in Bangladesh, from relevant government agencies, about consistency with the other effective laws of Bangladesh, such as land laws, from officials and experts working in the government of neighboring countries. And look, since its adoptions, no further promulgations, no further rules was promulgated. This is the reason why we're reviewing the current version of the URP Act 2017. Scope of the draft review, as you can see that the scope is, it highlights some shortcomings, inadequacies, and recommends improvement to facilitate the pre-legislative phase of the lawmaking process. The paper recommends that the changing of the form and function of UDD into an adequately resourced Department of Urban and Regional Development or similar, and then separate it from the Ministry of Housing and Public Works is the right strategy for the government. It is also anticipated that in the interim, the reformed DURD may report to the Prime Minister's office until full-fledged DURD starts to report either to the current Minister of Planning or newly formed Physical Planning Minister. Now, in the Act, there are 22 definitions and 25 clauses. Among them, these are the list of definition and clauses that we reviewed. As you can see that the opening statement of the law is very clearly articulated. I like it, we like it. But it also we need to remember that a road to hell is often paved with a good intention. The definitions. Now, one of the definitions given as coordination. Coordination is a very good, it is one of the essential part of the definition. I don't want to actually go through the details, but the thing is, it has a good intention, two sub-clauses, but after review, the paper recommends the following comments. They make the following comments, which is, coordination efforts may be futile unless the defined land use control authorities are adequately empowered to make arrangements for one-stop service to the land use and development permit applicants. Suggested edits, the new clauses should be added to devolve coordination power among all authorities defined in clause 13 and clause 7 and 13 of the draft URP Act. Obligations of the existing planning ministry and ECTEC must also be clearly defined in the new clauses. All responsible authorities, responsible authority means the authority is listed in the clause 13 and 7 of the Act, which is normally the City Council, development authorities, and the local government. Obligations and responsibility under the following acts need to be defined in new clauses to legally bind them in a chain of responsibilities for the coordinated and collaborative plan making for the urban rural areas and interactive and coordinated assessment of land use and development clearance for permit matters. So these are the acts that there are these are the list of acts that I think that I found that is relevant to the land use planning business. And you can see that the current version of the Act does not refer to any of these acts and their chain of responsibilities and how that can be coordinated. This is one of the major shortcomings of the Act. As I said, I repeat, the current version of the Act does not refer any of these acts and their roles into the Urban Regional Planning Act. Go to the next definition. Is a special land use plan, which is to do about some major projects agenda of the government. But you can see that mining city, a new airport, new rail station, EPZs, etc. Now, our comment is that the special plan making and approval matters need to be coordinated by the higher level of the government, that is the Minister for Physical Planning or equivalent, but not less than a full minister. Only the Minister for Physical Planning equivalent must call in the projects for assessment and may exempt him or herself from usual local level scrutiny. The suggestion, unless exempted, I mean, you can see that unless exempted by the Minister of Physical Planning, the special project must go through rigorous public scrutiny under the Land Use and Development Clearing Permit process. Particularly, the adjoining landowners and the local people must get involved into this planning exercise. And they can actually send their comments within 28 days of the notice of the publications of this particular plan. And their comments, public comments can be no objection subject to conditions, more information request, etc. Well, that thing is not written here anywhere, so, but the clauses reflecting to this comment and the suggested edits need to be added.
Judge, you have 2 minutes left. Huh?
Oh, I can't finish that 2 minutes. It will be over time a little bit. Now, this is the forms of the two committees, the advisory committees and the executive committees. I can say, except the president of the Planning Institute, Bangladesh Institute of Planners, all of them are basically bureaucrats. And basically our comments here is that it is unclear if the idea is to make the advisory and executive committees as a temporary bodies until the formation of the new fully fledged department or reformation of the UDD. In the interim, the advisory committee must include eminent environmental lawyers, leaders of relevant activist group of Bangladesh. And executive committee should also include the well-trained and qualified higher officials from the Prime Minister's office. Suggested edit, neither advisory nor the executive council should be alternative to the full-fledged Department of Urban Development. A few clauses addressing the planning disputes resolution should be added into this clause. Example can be the Planning Environmental Act 1987, Victoria, Australia. Thank you. Next clauses is that it's about, you can see the from reading from Bengali, it is about the land use clearance. Now, our comment is that the permit, clearance of permit must be sought from the responsible authorities, defined in the clause 13 of the Act. In response to any permit application, the responsible authorities can make either of the 4 decisions, which I mentioned previously: more information request, no objection subject conditions, objection. Either of the above decisions are mostly procedural based on the quality of the concurrent planning works. For major infrastructure development projects or large-scale land use matters, Physical Planning Minister or DURD can intervene if requested by the concerned local authorities listed in clause 13. Advisory council should not get involved in such permit and clearance matter. They must wind up after the establishment of the new Physical Planning Ministry and the department.
Judge, how many slides left?
There are quite a few, halfway.
Pardon?
Halfway so far.
Please complete within 2 more years. We cannot give you more time. Please
I'll try to skip because there is quite a few. This
please shorten your.
Is for a more elaborate presentation. I'll skip a few things and just to highlight, to take you some of the important affairs, important review matters. Now, in terms of the telling you who are the responsible authority defined in the clause 13, which is very clearly defined there who are them are. Basically, see here, most of them are development authorities, Paurushavas, Union Parishad, etc. These are the responsible authority. I mean, they should be empowered to take decision independently under the URP Act. In the interim, the council may advise the appointment of land use and development control agency, but in the long run, will be counterproductive given the committee will not meet only twice a year. Just to mention that those councils formed under the Act only meet twice a year. They are incapable, they're virtually incapable of dealing with this kind of affairs. So I'll take you to the, I will skip all these things, but quite a few things that need to be remembered, that it is imperative that the consortium of the independent planning experts should be appointed by the genuine physical planning minister, if necessary. The head of the government should also decide the composition of the independent planning consortium, comprising of the planning experts who are not less than fellow member of Bangladesh Planning Institute, Institute of Planners, Bangladesh. A conflict of interest clause is missing. Organization listed in clause 13 will be default responsible authorities for the matters respective in their jurisdictions. The main purpose of this clause should be to empower and build capacity of the organizations, clause 13. No clauses of the EOP Act should make them dependent on the temporary higher level committees who only meet twice a year. So this is about the approval of the plans and the now the thing is that our committees, in lieu of interim committee, the physical planning ministry should oversee ratifying all the plans listed above. The clauses need to be edited, reflecting the comment above. A planner come practicing lawyer should rewrite these clauses. Now, in terms of the penalty units, we don't think it is a very naive idea to actually mention that, and obviously the infringement of the planning URP Act should be treated as under the code of civil procedure, not as a criminal procedure. Thank you. Next is the indemnity clause, which we always oppose. There shouldn't be an indemnity clause because it will just cover up all the bureaucratic bungles. So basically, it has to be, and it is inconsistent with the National Integrity Strategy of Bangladesh 2012. Please delete this clause. Reform UDD should have a citizen charter reflecting the comment. Summary of the review. The summary is basically one of the things that's missing, that it is noted that in clause 32 of the Local Government Act, Local Government Act authorizes urban local governments, that means the municipalities, to prepare master plan for their jurisdiction, which contradicts with the land use and development plan making intent and power of this law. Absence of reference about the nexus between the national, regional, and local planning provisions lead to believe the main reason of the draft URP Act was to form two interim committees in absence of the ministry and the DURD. Such an important law to govern the entire land use and development affairs of Bangladesh cannot have such narrow intent. This is just the summary. This is just a summary of the shortcomings. Some of the highlighted things that I would like to mention is there is no reference about how the municipal master plan should be updated. Municipal master plan under the Pura Sabha Act be updated and to provide legal status under the URP Act. How public participation in the plan making and plan approving will occur during assessment of individual land use plans matter. No role statement of a listed organization in clause 13 regarding application of new precinct plannings, land subdivision, land classifications, land rezoning, including land in depth and municipal area.
Thank you, Ajad.
Matters are given. Now, present form and function, as we know that the UDD does not have its only small pool of professionals there. They do not have any lawyers, land surveyors, environmentalists, such as ecologists, hydrologists, botanists, arborists, geologists, who would help them assessing the planning application for land use clearance for projects. Reform UDD was the creation of the new department. Shuman, we only need a couple of more minutes, if you allow, just a couple of minutes. Reform UDD versus the creation of the Department of Urban and Regional Planning. Now, the thing is that it is important until now that institutionally UDD has the mandate to become a overarching DURD. As such, reforming it for both physical plan making and plan approving organization to control unplanned land use and development for all administrative jurisdiction of Bangladesh would not only build the government capacity in its physical planning function.
Thank you, Ajad. You took 20 minutes.
Also help building the capacity for private consultancy works industry.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We'd like to stop here anyway, and we appreciate that with you people edit and review this this act with some selected clause with respect to your good purpose, and we from Bangladesh Institute of Planners will notify this one, and we'll try to study and will forward it to the respective department of our government. And it's interesting that the purpose of this act is to restrict anyone who will try to encroach or will try to develop agricultural land for the construction other purpose. There is any other so many purposes. So thank you very much for your excellent review. I'd like to go to audience before going to the panelists. If you have any observation on this review. Any observation from the audience? Lovely audience in front of me.
I want to get permission. I mean online.
Okay, please introduce yourself and
Can I?
please shorten your question as you know our limited time.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, please.
Thank you, Mr. Azad. Actually, he reviewed and worked a lot. I actually read this draft document several times, and I have only in this time constant I have only one comments actually. The advisory committee of the proposed committee headed by the minister, in my sense, it is not workable because we can actually, obviously, we can link the prime minister, head of the government, to deal with the physical planning issues, and this draft will be actually reviewed, and there will be include one department. It may be physical planning department or any other name. So without the involvement of the head of the government, this will not be actually a fruitful act. So I compare the other countries' act. In other countries, which actually there is a physical planning council headed by the prime minister. So thank you very much, and this is my comment section.
Okay, thank you. Moderator.
Thank you, Mr. Nurullah. He is our advisory committee member of BAP. Okay, sir.
আচ্ছা কেউ বিদেশি কেউ নাই বাংলায় বলি
One or two or three are foreigners. So, okay, sir. Go ahead.
আচ্ছা আছে লোক আছে আচ্ছা ইটস এন হাইলি জিক্স অফ ইট মানে ইউডিডি ওই শখের মধ্যে পড়ে না বিকজ ইউডিডি ইজ আনরিপ্রেজেন্টেড বাই দি পাবলিক একটা জিনিস হচ্ছে এর সাথে উপজেলা প্ল্যান উপজেলায় যে দেখো কারো কাছে কোনো প্ল্যান নাই কেন কোনো প্ল্যান কই স্যার এটা তো আমরা শুনি নাই আর বলে শোনো নাই তোমার পাঠাই দিছে তোমার কাছে তুমি এখন বিকজ ইট ইজ আন্ডার দি মিনিস্ট্রি অফ এলজিআরডি ওরা ইউনিটির তো কোনো অর্গানোগ্রাম নিচের দিকে কোনো কারোর সাথে মিলে না তার অর্গানোগ্রাম সেই জন্য এই ইউডিডি সেই 65 সালে হয়েছে এ পর্যন্ত ইউডিডির কন্ট্রিবিউশন কি এটা অ্যানালিসিস করে দেখলে দেখা যায় ইট শুড বি ট্রান্সফার টু দি মিনিস্ট্রি অফ এলজিআরডি আমার মনে হয় যে আমাদের বিআইপির কাছে আমার সনির্বন্ধ অনুরোধ হচ্ছে এইটার আমরা চাই না যে ওটা বন্ধ করতে চাই না আমার যদি একদম ট্রান্সফারেবল যদি হয় মিনিস্টার সাহেব তাহলে একটা কন্ট্রিবিউশন রাখতে পারবে কারণ কোনো প্ল্যান গেলে সেটা গেজেট নোটিফিকেশন করে ওদের কোনো অর্গানোগ্রাম নাই যে তারা এদের প্ল্যান নিবে বলে তুমি কে আমার প্ল্যান দেওয়ার
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you. Judge, I'd like to respond sir question first. Sir, we'll arrange another discussion on this. There is so many controversy regarding your proposition, so we'll discuss later before going to our presenter. Thank you very much. Thank you. We'd like to hear something from our young planners sitting behind of our seniors. Any questions from you? Any observation or queries? No, huh? However, a very interactive session from presenters and the audience. I like to stop the question and answer session here, and I'd like to go to our panelists, and I think they can share their insights in our three presentation. And the first, I'd like to go to our today's important discussion. Dr. Muhammad Abdul Wakil is the Assistant Professor of Department of Urban Regional Planning, Rajshahi University of Engineering and Technology. Before responding to the papers, I have a specific question to you. How can urban, as you are also a planner, a graduate from urbanization and planning from BUET, how can urban planners strike a balance between the development of smart cities and the conservation of green spaces to ensure sustainable urban growth? Oh, my question? Actually, as a planner, how we think, how we strike a balance between the development of smart cities and the conservation of green spaces to ensure the sustainable urban growth. Green spaces.
Is it working? Hello. Actually, the smart city is timely need. We need smart city to grow, to make our cities more developed, and because we are developing day by day, we are now developing country, but we can't ignore the green space or the needs of green space. So we have to do some balance act. Like we can't destroy the green spaces. Like in Dhaka, a scarcity of green spaces. But if you, but we are focusing on Dhaka cities to make these cities more advanced, more technology based, but we're ignoring the other cities. But in that case, we can make a project, like pilot project, to choose other cities which are growing and less growing day by day, like Khulna or Rajshahi. Not Chittagong, because there is lots of green spaces there. So in that case, we can make a project, pilot project, to make the cities smart and as well as green cities. Like in Rajshahi city is a green cities. So we can make that kind of pilot project to make an example, to set an example for all over the country that a city can be a green or can be a smart one.
Thank you. Actually, I asked you because you're living in Rajshahi. From the previous sources, we found that there was also in-migration and out-migration of Rajshahi city towards Dhaka. But after implementing their higher-level plan, master plan, we evaluated that 23 to 24% of the master plan was implemented in Rajshahi city corporation.
Yes.
And that becomes the green city of Bangladesh, an example of
Exactly.
Bangladesh. So it's now we found that even in-migration is very less in Rajshahi now.
Yes.
There is so many developments. So planning has impact there. So how a migration can be stopped with this development of smart city and conservation of green cities? That's why I asked.
Yes.
This
Yes. Actually, in Rajshahi, in-migration is not actually stopped, but it's decreasing. But basically, the migration worker are the adjacent city of this Rajshahi. Like most of the people are coming in Rajshahi for education purpose, because this is education cities. And after education, they migrate from Rajshahi to other cities. Like basically, they come to Dhaka for job purposes, because in Rajshahi there is no job opportunities at all. Only few bank jobs or like government job. But recently, government of Bangladesh inaugurated high-tech park in Rajshahi. There is maybe it will create some opportunities and also absorb the graduate from RUET or as well as from Rajshahi universities, and they accommodate the first graduate in this high-tech park. And recently, our newly elected honorable mayor, he also said that, like I said in Bengali, like উন্নয়ন দৃশ্যমান উন্নয়ন কর্মসংস্থান, something like this. He want to create some job opportunity in Rajshahi, because we already established green cities, we established education cities, but this is a great challenge for the city governor to create some opportunities, job opportunities for the graduate, because people are coming there, and we can't hold, we cannot absorb the potentiality of these young people for the development of the Rajshahi city.
Thank you. And do you have any specific observation or insight on our presented papers or review of Urban and Regional Planning Act?
Actually, I have one queries, not question, for first presenter, because they talk about the seasonalities. So, actually, how they define the seasonalities or seasonal migration, like in which during this which period, like January to April, or during this drought period, or the which season. And for second presenter, I have a similar question regarding the sample size, how they justify the 64 sample size.
Thank you. I'd like to hear from our first presenter group, Saida Laizu Akhtar. I think she is not available now. So, second presenter. Okay, thank you. Thank you. I think I'll get you with your answer later. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wakil, for a nice insight. I'd like to go to our different professionals from Project Management Institute, Ms. Onesha Ahmed. Do you have any observation on our Urban Regional Planning Act, what Mr. Reza has reviewed, and any insight about our today's presentation? Apart from that, I have some questions.
Yeah, so I guess I'm audible. So first of all, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to be in this stage. And as I was going through the presentations for the participants who were providing the paper, so that's a very, I would say, like a very rich research based on the migration and urbanization. So in there, I actually found the problem statement that we have today, like the lack of competency of the migration. That was the burning question. Each of these sessions that was. And also the upgradation of the policies, like that policy that we already have, like how to update those policies. So that was a very, like, I need to check that in depth because I couldn't get much detail from the small presentation. I think that also appears to be another presentation for this. And another point was on the policy and decentralization. Because we feel that our, the migration and all these projects, all these competencies are very much centralized to the capital city or the second largest city, Chittagong. So in that case, like how these decentralization can happen. So for those solutions, I think the second question will, Shumon Bhai comes up, like what project management will help in that area. So,
not help, actually.
So I think I'll go to Shumon Bhai, but I have read the question, so I just didn't want to lose any much of time because I'm a project manager as well. So
okay.
Let me ask the question myself over here. So
how
in that
can
part about project management competencies. So we are very much serious about our scope. We are very much serious about what actually is the problem and how we are solution through our projects. And the third pattern is on the time management and schedule management and doing the budget as well in managing this sort of a problem statement that we have. And as we don't have the, the resources available over here, sometimes like we feel for managing these projects professionally. So that's where we professionals are here. Project management professionals, the planners who are absolutely doing fantastic job because we have recently joined hand with BIP. We, Project Management Institute, are here to help to see like what are the lack over here in the competencies, and we are working hard actually to have these competencies in our professionals. So another point was on the migration part for the presenters, that the maximum people who are migrating are in the youth part of Bangladesh. And 27% of youth population are here in Bangladesh, of the total percentage.
So 45 million people are in the youth category. So to our other panelists and to the audience, I feel like there are also very young audience over here, in here. So can we like come up with the competencies, and can we come up with the, we are like DIT organization, I think BIP is also working, even Project Management Institute Bangladesh is also working for the Smart Bangladesh vision. And I think that's the call of the hour, like how we can decentralize the cities, how we can come up with the smart communities, how we can come up with the smart governance with the policy upgradation, and also the foremost, becoming a smart citizen. So that will require all these competencies of project management, also for becoming a professional planner. Because if you can't plan well on the urbanization, so where will we execute in here? So that's the call of the hour, I will say. Like, let's all become responsible in the competencies and come up with the solutions. Not only talk about the policies, not only talk about the how to change, let's be the change maker here. And let's change the policies. So, Shuman Bhai.
Thank you.
I
Thank you
think
very
I
much.
have covered
Yeah,
all
you
the
covered
part
my
like that.
questions. That means your project management practices can be applied and effectively contributed to build our sustainable urbanization of our country. Thank you. Thank you very much. So I'd like to go to my our last panelist, Sharif Mohammad Tariquজ্জামান, Senior Planner of Urban Development Directorate. Tariq bhai, do you have any insight or observation about the presentation? And apart from that, I have a specific question to you. Our perspective plan envision being an inclusive country where no people have no live in slums. So how UDD is approaching to ensure inclusivity, and what is your future vision towards this endeavor, actually from UDD?
Okay, thank you. Assalamu alaikum. I'm Sharif Mohammad Tariquজ্জামান, Senior Planner, Urban Development Directorate. And previously the organizer instructed me to discuss the topics in the light of my project Paira Kuakata Comprehensive Plan that I have finished recently. I will discuss the topics about on the light of my project I have prepared very recently, the Paira Kuakata Comprehensive Plan focusing on ecotourism. I have prepared, we have prepared regional plan and 7 structure plans and urban area plan for the coastal area, mainly Patuakhali and Borguna district. The upajelas are Pathorghata, Borguna, Amtoli, Taltoli, Kolapara, Golachipa and Rangabali. In that case, we know that the urban growth and urban growth is a crucial issue for the planner, because it is very difficult to control the urban growth, and the migration plays a vital role in urbanization in our country and all over the world. The urbanization and the planners, the role of the planners will be to manage the migration and manage the urban growth in a planned way. And in our plan, we try to do this work, and we prepare the opportunities and the opportunities to the people in the coastal belt. You know, the opportunity model in migration says that if the people get the opportunities nearby the area nearby, then they will not migrate to a distant place. So in our plan, we try to create some facilities in the coastal towns. We prepare the we prepared the disaster resilient plan. We have we have studied so many studies in our plan, the geological aspects, the hydrogeological aspects, and the environmental aspects. And we have in the first time we studied strategic environmental assessment in urban planning. In strategic environmental assessment, SEA mainly screening the policies and plans, and SE prepare some guidelines to manage the problems in the future. And in that way, we are trying to prepare a sustainable plan and a comprehensive plan in our planning. And we consider migration. Migration is a difficult task to in our country. There are difficult to collect the data in migration for migration. So in our case, the Paira Port Authority studied that they will fully start the port in 2025, and they calculated 13,000 employees employment will create in port related activities. We consider that these are the basic employment, and we know if basic employment is creating, then non-basic activities will be developed. So if there are some non-basic activities, the people will migrate the places nearby the coastal area or the nearby the port area. So in that way, we try to manage the migration and try to manage the urban growth. And you know, if I say something about the papers presented here, there are two papers on migration. We know the factors of migration are very common. Some factors are associated in the place of origin, and some are associated with the place of destination, and some are the intervening obstacles like distance, and some are personal aspects of the migrants. Mainly four aspects leads the migration. And gravity model, we know if the population of the destination will be larger than the population in the place of origin, the people will migrate to the destination. We know the Todaro model, the expected income in the destination. If the expected income will be larger than the actual income in place of origin, the people will migrate. So these are the common factors in the papers they described. And there is a question here. In our country, 3.5% is the urban growth, and 4.29 persons per 1,000 rural-urban migration is 4.29 persons per 1,000 population. If we calculate the 16 crore population in our country, then it would be 68,000 rural-urban migration in each year. But the presenters says that the 5 lakh people migrate in Dhaka city every year. It is
not presenter, it's written in the DAP.
Okay, it is a, I am not clear about this portion. So my discussion is mainly, yeah, and the another paper, the Urban and Regional Plan Act. Actually, it is prepared in 80s when the National Physical Plan was prepared in by the UNDP. It has been prepared in 80s, but in UDD we translate it into Bengali, and we incorporate some portions. But I think the two councils, the Executive Council and the Advisory Councils, it may be some professionals in two councils. We can suggest that some professionals will be included in two councils, and the punishment maybe 5 lakh or taka, and the unavailable, it is very hard. And in this session, in this seminar, we can suggest that these punishment, and it is not criminal offense. It is so it to be reviewed, and we can review these sessions. So thank you all. It is very difficult for me to discuss something in a large experts session. This organizer invited me, so I thanking them for to invite me for a large session. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Sharif Mohammad Tariquজ্জামান, for your nice overview of your Pirate Kuakata Development Plan project and focusing migration. And I will go to my chair. Before going to my chair, Ms. Dr. Wakil, I think presenters are here. Do you like to get the answer? Then you have to ask the question again. Okay, thank you. So I'd like to request our today's chair, Professor Dr. Ghulam Murtaza sir, our eminent professor of Khulna University. Sir, we'd like to hear from you about the papers. Especially, I have a specific question about Urban and Regional Planning Act, Draft Act 2017. How can this act be enhanced to more effectively tackle the complexities and opportunities arising from urbanization in Bangladesh? As a senior planner, and what is your insights about this matter, sir?
Okay. Hello. Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon. Okay, we are exhausted. Rather, we have heard. Okay, structurally, I'm going to say in two ways. In terms of the papers, that I have some observations and queries. And the next one is that some messages. And the third one that have been included by moderator, my dear student, Shumon, and then about the inside view and what is going to happen with the act that have been discussed. Well, as regard the papers, it's according to me, there was actually 3 presentations, 2 by the BUET students. To me, it's a good one, just stating the fact. It's a good one. And I would expect, okay, plus point, something like that. If there would be some statistical, persuasiveness, statistical evidence, something like that, statistical exercise, that will be much more academic exercise to me. Well, nevertheless, it's a good one, but I would expect one point, why Kurigram? What is the uniqueness? But they have mentioned some point, but it will be much more. And I'm also adding some point, how you are going to adapt it, the migration, how you are going to fit in with the new system, new socio-economic, the conditions where you have gone. So this sort of some questions, some queries arises, and some questions, some queries have come up from the audience. That's a good one to me. It's a good one from the BUET. I congratulate them. The third one presented, it's very a bit elaborative by one of my students who is now in Australia, and then Irad, and then Moshir Rahman, plus the Maksum Hashem. It's a good one, very elaborative, and really, well, I would expect in this sort of seminars and conferences, we lose sometimes the patience. Rather, it would be structured if you would say main points. As Akhtar Mahmood in the morning session, he has presented a nice paper to me. It's very constructive, very elaborative, but very informative, and very, you can enjoy this presentation. I congratulate again Akhtar Mahmood is here. This sort of presentation I expect. Nevertheless, I congratulate. Well, this is a very good issue, but I like to recapitulate when I was in UDD, as Tariq has said, it has been drafted first by the National Physical Planning Project, where I was there, the second batch of the of BUET and Sheffield student. Well, it has been done, and over the years it has been reviewed and it's been translated, and it's a very, Azaz, I would draw your attention. Well, it would be good, really, not by line, rather say the key messages to the audience, those who are going to deal with, because they are not going to, they are going to think it. We are think tank, we think, we provide some, the advices, some our suggestions, some our comments, but they are implementer. To implement in response to this Suman's query, I would say, we need, as Professor Ghulam Rahman, our guru, has said, we need leadership. This act is very good to me. It might be reviewed with the assistance of the ADP or climate change or whatever. There are a lot of, the developer partners before us. A long back ago, when we are young, there was no much, the development partners like as we have nowadays. So what I would expect that this again should be reviewed. It must be contextual. It must be because these things are changing, you see. Over time, these things are changing. Our aspiration, our expectation, socio-economic goals, plans, policies, acts, etc., it's adding. So we like to thoroughly, it should be reviewed. It's a good one. We have the starting point. Now it's up to us, now with the young planners. They have to come up with some suggestions and action-oriented. Something has to be come up. So this sort of thing. But my last, what is the message? Actually, I was reading from last night. I am a bit critical. Whenever I go somewhere, I read again and again what I'm going to say. So I was reading last night, this morning also, about the title of this session is that Integration of Urban Migration into Sustainable Planning. There are some keywords, you see. What is said? Urban migration. Yes, it has been addressed. It has been said, a few words. Whenever we say sustainable planning, what is that? What is sustainable planning? I have gone through it, sustain and planning. What are these socio-economic, environmental, blah, blah, etc., issues? And you say plan ahead. So it's very, it's very critical. What are the critical issues? This message I was expecting, this sort of message would come, and then at the end of the Dhaka Declaration, at the end of this, the conference session, what are those? What are the key messages? What we can brought forward to our government? Look, these are our thinking. This is our aspiration. This is our common thinking. This sort of things would rather, would be much more effective, fruitful for arranging this sort of, the arrangement. Well, I would say again and again, it's a good arrangement, and I have been honored as Suman has and the organizer has given me opportunity to be session this chair. And you see, I was in abroad. I came, that this is I consider this is my social responsibility. So let us work together, young, middle, seniors. Let us work together for the cause of the nation. So let us work together, and we hope at the end of the day, we will see the rays of this success and some hopes and aspirations. That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your nice speech as chair. And thank you, wonderful audience. for your patience and hearing loudly, except if you engage in Gazette. Most of the our audience are attention. Anyway, now it's time for lunch. Everybody might be hungry, so I like to conclude here with a token of presentation from BIP to our chair and panelists. Please accept from our side, and a group photo from the bottom. Lunch venue at the Oasis. Let's go there for lunch. Thank you.